Welcome back to another episode of The Blueprint. I'm your host, Calvin Custance. Today I'd like to welcome Coach Mike Giannone, the head football coach at Anchor Bay High School. He's a four-time state champion, winning 2 at both Dakota and Salle High School. Welcome to the show, Coach. Right, today we have Coach Mike Giannone, who's a 4-time state champion at both Dakota and Salle, and now the head coach of Anchor Bay High School. So thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So first off, when did you start coaching and why did you get into coaching?
I started coaching back in 1979. So I've been doing it for quite a while. I got into coaching because there was a couple mentors of mine that coached me when I was younger. And I think one of the things that was probably the most influential part was being able to give back, stay in the game, and continue to compete. That's something that I enjoy.
Did you play football?
I did. I played at Cousino High School and went on after that, but didn't play very much. So won't say a college career was anything that I pursued.
Mm-hmm. And then what position did you play?
I was a linebacker, running back.
That's cool. Do you have experience coaching those like positions?
I have coached every position so far that you can imagine. But really when it came down to it, when I first started, because I started at 7th grade level and I started coaching, they just threw me into it. So I had to coach everything. And then when I moved up and coached freshman football, I was more on the defensive side of the ball. So I did coach a little bit on the defensive side for the next 3 or 4 years. And I got really involved in learning the offensive line and the defensive line. That was something that I thought was, imperative to learn if I wanted to continue to coach, because good line coaches are hard to find. I'm not saying I'm a good one, but I know that they're difficult to find.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
Those are the kind of guys that people are always looking for. And it was one of the things that I didn't have much experience with, and continued to learn and grew with that position. And I started to like it a lot. And then getting involved with the offensive side, knowing the offensive line, moving over to Chippewa Valley. I coached at Warren Mott. I was at Cousino for a year on the JV. Then I went to Warren Mott. I was there with Bob Miles. He was the head coach for years over there. Then I went with Pat McAleer, stayed with him. So I was at Warren Mott for 4 years. Then I left Warren Mott and went over to Chippewa Valley, where I finally got a teaching position there. And I coached with Randy Jarmega was the head coach, and I was the JV coach. And then Bob Schroeder took over as the head football coach, and he hired me as the varsity assistant, along with Mike Carr and Dave Miller. We only had 4 on the staff at the time. So I was pretty fortunate to be with Bob, which he became a mentor of mine. And he came over from Wayne State. He was a coach at Wayne State, coached at Grosse Pointe South. That was a great experience for me. And then when the job opened up at Macomb, Dakota, I was teaching over there for 1 year. I coached the JV, thought I was going to get the job. I didn't get the job the first 2 years. I went back to Chippewa Valley, was Mike Carr's offensive coordinator over there at Chippewa Valley. Basically, we ran the offense together, and it was Mike's offense. And he took me on, and I stayed there for 2 years until Mike Frost was the head coach, and he gave it up. And I reapplied, and I got the job, and I was there for 18 years. So wow. That was a great run over at Dakota. I enjoyed it, taught there, taught phys ed and health, and really enjoyed it. Coached numerous sports as well. I was the head softball coach for 9 years, and I coached JV basketball. I was also part of the baseball program, coached a little track. I've done pretty much coached a little wrestling and um, done a lot in the amount of time that I've been around. And then I went had an opportunity to go to De La Salle back in 2000, I think after the 2016 season. And I took that opportunity, and I had 4 good years there. Really, they were great years with the kids. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, and I was let go over a situation that was unfortunate, but it was a learning experience for me as well as other kids, and still in litigation. So then I got hired at Anchor Bay, and I've been there for 3 years. I teach over there as well. I'm retired from the Chippewa Valley schools, and I teach at Anchor Bay right now. And took over that program. They had 26 kids when we started. This past year, we on the varsity we had 72, and we built the program up with a
Wow.
good coaching staff, assistant coaches, and just beating the bushes a little bit and trying to get kids back to playing football at Anchor Bay.
Were you guys always Mac Red when you joined the program?
We started out when I was at Chippewa Valley. We were in the Mac Red. Then I went over to Dakota, and my first year we were in the Mac White. We won the Mac White that year, and they told Warren Mott that they were going up to the Red, and I said, you know what, we'll do it. And they said, are you crazy? A little bit. And we did it, and we stepped up, and we went 6-3 that year, which was pretty good for us. But once we were 6-0 going into the last 3 games, and we had Stevenson, Eisenhower, Chippewa, and we lost all 3 games.
Wow.
But we ended up going to the playoffs, and we made a little bit noise in the playoffs, which we in 1999 was our first year in playoffs, and we beat Chippewa Valley for the district championship. And then we played Clarkston for the regional championship, and we went into 4 overtimes, and we lost to them 57-56. So it was one
Wow.
of the best games I've ever been involved with, and it was a definite learning experience for myself as well.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of experience along the line.
Yeah, a little bit. We've experienced quite a bit, and some good, mostly good, and some, not as good as I'd like to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. So was Dakota your first head coach job?
Yes. Yeah.
What was
First job.
what was the responsibilities that came with that was different than other jobs, like running the program wise and having more of a leash?
Yeah, that's a great question, because everybody says you know what you're getting yourself into when you take over as the head coach. No, you don't. You never do. And you think you do. You think, well, I was an assistant for 18 years. I know I can do this. And all of a sudden, things come up, and you say, "Wow, I don't remember ever dealing with that." And I wasn't sure about this. So you learn a little bit on the fly. You have your basic philosophy, and you try to stay with that. And it usually, if you, and everybody talks about core values, and they talk about, creating a culture, and I guess, that's all good stuff. And I don't like those terms, maybe because I didn't make them up, but I do believe in them, and I think that if you stick with your belief, and if you sell it to the people that are in your program, you can't just sell it to the kids, because the kids when I first got the job at Dakota, the athletic director said to me, he said, how are you going to win the kids over? I said, I can win the kids over in 3 days. The big question is, how am I going to win the staff over? And it took a little bit longer to win the staff over, because, those were all guys that wanted the head coaching job, and they didn't get it. And why do you want to coach with me? And not for me, but with me. Why? And you have to get the right people and the right mix. And sometimes you have to continue to evaluate that. If it's not exactly the way it's working out, then you have to do the tough things and uh, maybe change it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So, what offense like have you run historically? Do you change it up depending on the team, or do you have a set offense that you like to run with your teams?
We have a system, and the system entails, we can pack it in, and we can go. We can You can see some wing tee stuff out of us, and we can spread it out where you can see empty. So, but the system is similar into everything we do because what we teach is concepts more than we do teach plays. And we when I was at De La Salle, we were a gap scheme team, which means that we would be double teaming, blocking at the attack of the play, more deception, and we ran more of the wing T, and then we would spread it out a little bit with 3-4 wide and getting the shotgun. But we go underneath and we go gun. So, and I think as long as unless somebody can come out and prove to me that when you have 1 yard to go and you get in the gun at 5 yards, now you got 6 yards to go. I never understood that, but there's guys out there that know way more than I do.
Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side of that, what defense like is there a set defense that you found most effective, or does that once again change depending on the team?
Yeah, it definitely changes depending on team what you have. When I was at Dakota, we started out in a 4-3. We kind of moved to a 4-2-5. The people that we have, just because everybody spread us out, took that one linebacker and pushed them out. So we went to a 4-2-5. And when I went to De La Salle, hired one of my former players to become our defensive coordinator. He played on 2 state championship teams that we had at Dakota. So he ran a 4-2-5, very similar to what we ran at Dakota. Then when we went over to Anchor Bay, we just didn't have the kids to run a 4-2-5, so we went to a 3-3 stack. We don't have the size, or we haven't found the size yet. Maybe it's there. We just haven't found it. We're looking for it. So if anybody's listening to this and they know kids at Anchor Bay that are big, send them down my way. But we're a 3-3 stack team right now. We vary our secondary coverages. We'll be a split field coverage team, along with sometimes we'll run a little cover 3.
How can you tell when you like first like in January or whenever you guys start? When can you tell like, okay, this team I can run this specific type of offense or this specific type of defense? Like, how do you tell when you read your team?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if you can tell. You look for pieces, and you start looking at those pieces, and you say, "Wow, this guy would." We want to play with a tight end. This guy would be a great tight end. We need a guard that can pull and trap. This guy would be the guy. We have a big kid. He doesn't need to do a ton, so he probably can play center. Uh, Defensively, we need we need an anchor end. We need a 3 technique. Do we have some linebackers that can run? Do we have a shutdown corner? Do we have a guy that can just lock people down? We had Josh DeBerry at De La Salle, and he was a lockdown corner. He starts at Boston College right now. We had Jacob Dobbs, which is a linebacker that played for us, and he could go in the secondary and change up. And he starts at Holy Cross. And you got guys that that are they're good. They can run. So when do you find that out? I think you look at you watch the JV, you watch the freshmen, you watch all these kids. You watch them in your gym class. You watch them how they carry themselves in the halls and how they adjust to adversity. And some kids are gamers, and some kids they just got to work at it a little bit harder. And then there's other kids that they're imposters. They look the part, but they just can't do it. And you go, man, this guy's not that big, and this guy's not that strong, but he just seems to be in the right spot at the right time. So, we're equal opportunity employers. If you can do the job, you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you guys run a 3-3 stack. Is that a defense that's specifically made for smaller sized like defenses?
It's I think it's made. I don't know if it's made for if you can get it, what you have to do is you don't have to have as many defensive linemen. So when you only have three, so now we got to find six. So we find six guys that can possibly play there, and theoretically we end up using maybe four or five defensive linemen. We can sub defensive linemen, but it's the linebackers that if we can get those linebackers to run. And the one of the things about the 3-3 is you can't. It's hard on an offensive line because they don't see the odd fronts as much as they see the even. And when you're moving and you're showing them different things, they have to practice for that. And when teams aren't showing it, we're one of the only teams in the league that played that. So that kind of gave us a little bit of an advantage, and then they catch on a little bit. And so you got to mix it up.
Yeah. So going into your 2006 season where you won the state championship, correct?
Yes.
Did you guys like before the season? Did you know that that was like a team that would make a difference, like in the postseason, or was that kind of like a run that you guys went on and were like, okay, we can do this?
Well, I thought it was going to be a pretty good team because the best team that I probably coached was 2005 team, and we didn't win it. And the 2005 team, we lost to Canton in quarterfinals. We probably we're pretty really we're a really good team, and we were just starting to. In 2002, we went to the semifinals, got beat by Catholic Central. 2003, not as good, but then 2004, we were back. 2005, so we were starting getting consistent play out of our guys, and our guys kept. We had the same system, we had the same coaches, we had the same format that we would do, and kids got used to us. They understood what we were looking for. So 2006, did I think we were going to win the state championship? Did we talk about it? Oh, yeah, we talked about it all the time. I'm not shy about talking about the state championship. That was our goal. So we were MAC Red champs. We were regional champs. Now we had to take that next step, and we're I think our motto that year was, quit knocking on the door, kick it down. And one of the things that we never been there before. The school was only, maybe we we're team number 10. And so it was pretty, it was kind of neat to see that we could do that in 2006, but we got a big wake up call when we played Henry Ford. We played Henry Ford the second, and it was homecoming game. I still remember as clear as day. And Henry Ford was okay. They weren't great. And we were going on a run. We were on a pretty good run. We're getting a little sassy, and Henry Ford beat us in overtime. So we lost, and we were devastated. And that just kind of woke us up throughout the entire playoff run. So to go undefeated, it's very difficult to do. And sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that, but you don't want to lose the last game. That's important.
Mm-hmm. So over your time as a head coach, what would you say has been like the hardest season that you've had to go through? And how did you like bounce back from that season?
Well, this one was pretty hard right here. We went 3-6 this year, and we lost 4 games by a total of 22 points. We lost 2 games. We lost double overtime. We lost the last game of the year by 1 point. And it was difficult, not because we should have won, but it was because we could have won. And that was the difficult part, was we could have won those games. And I know the old adage, should have, could have, but we definitely could have won those games. And we really good teams like the teams we had at Dakota or De La Salle, we have margin for error. Here at Anchor Bay, there's not a lot of margin for error. And we played a really good schedule when we opened up, with Ann Arbor Pioneer. Then we went to play Grosse Pointe South. Then we played Dakota, Chippewa Valley, Romeo,
Yeah.
Eisenhower, Stevenson, Roseville, Stony Creek. So there was no, and that's like I told the kids, I said, that's the way you want it. You want to play the best and you see where you're at. So it was a difficult season in that respect, but there's not a whole lot of expectations right now at Anchor Bay. And I think maybe next year people say, uh, you went 3-6 and you gotta win some more games because these kids are starting to believe in that they can win.
Mm-hmm. So would you say, you said there's like what, 27 kids when you first started off at the program?
Yeah.
So when you're running practices, like with the like less amount of people, because obviously schools like Dakota have a lot of people in practices. DSL has a lot of people. So you can afford to do like a lot of like tackle circuits and like a lot of different group stuff. How do you run different practices with the less amount of people compared to the greater amount of athletes on the roster?
Well, to be honest with you, we had 27 when I walked into the program, but the first year we had 62, then we had 65, and then we had 70. So we increased those numbers. So our practice schedule is we don't have a lot of guys going both ways. We pretty much have a split practice. So we would start off and we have our specialists going right away. Then we go right into special teams. We have a 20-minute period. And while we're doing special teams, we're going run game with the offense and the second defense. Then when we get done with that, then we go right into we'll have individual offense and they'll have individual defense and they'll be going through their tackling circuit. So if you're a guy that does play both ways, you won't get that right away because you'll just be off strictly offense. Then we get done with that portion of it. We go into we'll have a passes on air, and our receivers and our quarterbacks will be working on that as the offensive line will then be working on still run game. And then when we get done with the passes on air, we go to 7-on-7, and we go against our first defense. Depending on a couple of receivers would double up, so they would our second guys would get a good look defensively, and then we would go pass protection. And when we get done there, we go into team, and then the defense, it would be a defensive session, and defense would go through formation rec. And as they're going through formation rec, the offense is still, they're going through screen and draws and working on that portion of the game. And then once they get done with that, they go through a 5-minute tackling period. And then they go through, then they group up so that linebackers and defensive line are together, and the defensive backs are doing defensive back drills. They go 7-on-7, then they go scrimmage. The one thing that I think that helps us out a lot is that we don't have a ton of guys going both ways. And sometimes it helps us and sometimes it hurts us because some of the kids feel like they maybe could help us a little bit more. We have them ready to go and play, but we try to, when we come off the field, our offensive line goes right to the tent, and we can make any kind of minor adjustments. You can't make major adjustments, and I don't think anybody really makes. If you got to make a major adjustment, you probably screwed something up during the week.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say the difference between coaching at a school which like Dakota, which is a big public school, in comparison to a school like Salle, which is D2 and private and like plays in a different league? So like, what was the difference, like, as a head coach in those two programs?
Zero. I mean, it was still both schools were extremely competitive. I think the only difference, Ted, probably that I can say offhand is that you know, the all boys school at De La Salle and the camaraderie that's created through that all boys atmosphere. Kids root for you at De La Salle, and I'm sure you get some of those knuckleheads that aren't, but for the most part, they are, and they still get a huge crowd. At Dakota, we had to foster that a little bit. and I thought we did a good job of it, and I still think they do a good job. Get great crowds. We played at Wayne State, which I wasn't a fan of because you can never fill that up. But when we played at Dakota, that was our goal, was to fill it up. When I was at Dakota, my first goal was to and I told the kids from day one is that we want to play one homecoming game, just ours, because our first couple of years we were everybody's homecoming game, and we didn't want to be anybody's homecoming game. We wanted them to fear us to play us on homecoming. And by the time we left, we were a one homecoming game team, and we only played our homecoming game, and no one wanted to play us on our homecoming because usually we didn't lose a lot at Dakota. At the field at Dakota Stadium, we didn't lose a lot there. We lost a few, but we didn't lose a ton.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you say is like the greatest achievement that you've accomplished? Because obviously the state championships, obviously like all those. But if you had to pick one, what would be your greatest accomplishment?
No, I think the greatest accomplishment that yeah, that's a good question because sometimes you don't reflect on your own career. You just kind of just keep going. And, everybody says, well, you keep grinding. It's not a grind for me because I love it. So I think one of the greatest accomplishments is watching the relationships that we've created. We just had a super sad situation. One of our players from 2017 just died. So everybody rallying together, coming together, and just, all the messages, coach, what do we do? And I'm not even their coach anymore, and I don't even have any affiliation with De La Salle, but people reaching out. So it's I think it's kind of like the footprint that you leave. And one of the things that I wanted to leave them was, football it's a great game. It really is. But there's so much more to football than what the X's and O's. And I got a lot of guys that are on my staff that they do a great job with that. But it's the relationships that really turn out to be something where you can give that guy some discipline for the rest of his life, some structure, and then they call back on you. We had a kid in 2002. His name was Steve Osowski, and Steve was a running back, and he came in and he told me he was going to quit the team because he wasn't getting enough touches. And I told him, get his stuff off my desk, and I'm not taking it. And I'll see you at practice tomorrow. And I remember we're playing Roseville, and Steve thought he was going to start because I brought him back. He didn't start. He didn't get any touches either. And so we ended up, the season was over, and Steve was one of the first guys in the weight room that next year. Steve became a captain of ours. There is no quit in Steve. And Steve was in Afghanistan as a captain in the Marines. And he sent me back something that I'll never forget was, that coach, we were on enemy fire. All I can remember was your voice saying, there is no quit. And that really touched me because when he said that, you get through to somebody. And now Steve's an FBI agent in Detroit.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, the differences that you can make as a coach it's really cool. That's like a great reason to do it.
Sure is.
So, how big of a part or how big of a factor does the community make as a coach?
Well, I think it makes a huge, you got to get, it comes down to, I think, if people don't like you, they're not going to really work with you. And you gotta get them somehow, some way to like you, not by changing who you are, but by showing them who you are, by doing the things that, if you say you're going to do something, then do it. If you're going to be there on time, if not early. If you tell them that you're going to help this kid out, then help the kid out. Don't give them lip service. And I think doing that in the community, one of the things, and one of the things, the way we built we fostered our relationships was, we would go to basketball games. I would coach on the basketball staff. We would go to girls basketball games. We'd go to volleyball games. We would, everybody was important. at Dakota and even at Anchor Bay now, and I think we've got it to this point that Friday night is not a game. Friday night's an event. It's an event that involves a ton of people. It involves the football team, obviously, but it also involves the band, the cheer team, the dance team, the booster club, parents from all over. We get a lot of people there, our youth programs. So it involves a lot of people, and you can capture those people in a lot of different ways just by, shaking hands, having them on the field, doing something that will kind of, lead them in the direction of where you want your program to go. So community is a huge part. If you don't have the community support at De La Salle, basically, if you don't have the community to support, you're not going to be around that community for very long.
Mm. What is the most effective way that you found to handle the pressure, whether it's coming from the school, the management, or the fans?
Win. I mean, if you can, I think the to handle the pressure is just be fair, man. Be fair and consistent. If you can be fair and consistent all the time and you don't miss something, like you tell one kid, hey, we're not wearing fluorescent arm sleeves, but then the other kid says, yeah, and he's a star, he gets to wear them. No. The one thing that we coach, and I think, and I got this from Bob Schroeder's, we coach hope in the kids. Just because you're the last player on the team doesn't mean you're not going to get coached. You're going to get coached like the first player. What we have in our practice scheme on Tuesdays, we have Tuesdays, TWO Tuesdays. We don't. That's when the twos go against the twos, and it's a live scrimmage, and we play for something. We put the ball on the 20-yard line, you get a first down. If you get stopped, then the defense gets a point, and whoever gets to 3 first is the winner. And we got kids going nuts. They live for those Tuesdays because sometimes they don't play on Friday nights. And how do they get their opportunity? And at times, too, we find kids that can play. So you got to come up with things that are competitive, they're fun. But I think the biggest thing to answer your question is you have to be consistent and you have to be fair. And it doesn't always work. Fair doesn't mean you get what you want. Fair means what's best for the team. And sometimes that's hard to do because some kids have to take a hit for the team, and they're still not old enough to understand that they're taking that. So it's my job to try to explain it to them.
Mm-hmm. If your team is struggling, how long does it take for you to shift the offensive, defensive, or overall team focus, or you do stick with what you're doing?
Well, it depends how bad they're struggling. If they're struggling to a point where we don't, if it's the scheme, then we'll change it up. But it's not usually the scheme. It's a lot of times it's one person not in the right spot or not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then, we gotta switch that up. And you tell it, when I was at Dakota, we were 9-0 going into the playoffs. And I told our left tackle, I said, we got to replace you. He's like, whoa, wow, why? Are you kidding me? I mean, we're 9-0. We're 9-0, but we've tried to cover you up all year, and you've got numerous chances, and we got to replace you. We're going to put so-and-so there. We're playing against a pretty good team, and I'm not asking him if he understands because he doesn't. I'm just hoping he accepts it. And to this day, we still talk about it because I'm still close with the kid. And he talks about, I remember, you pulling me out of there. I wanted to kill you. And he probably did. And I'm sure he had some bad feelings. But then how does he take it back to his parents? And how does he explain that to his friends? And I tell him, you can do one of two things. You can badmouth me and you can go around saying that, and that's fine. Or you can tell them, hey, I'm doing what's best for the team, and it'll probably build you up a little bit. And that player deserves to play. How are you going to manage this situation? And a lot of times they did the right thing. There are a few times where, we had to have a call in where we had to do a sit and get, where the kid would have to sit there and get what I told them. And sometimes it didn't work out as well as they wanted it to.
Mm-hmm. So What are some of the biggest lessons that you have learned with failures that you've had to overcome in your coaching career?
Uh, Number one, don't ever underestimate your own team. In 2002, we played Catholic Central. They had Mike Martin, and they had guys that were going to the NFL. And I said, we can't. There's no way we can hang with this team. There's no possible way. We're going to have to change. We do this. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. And we set up the game plan to be like that. And at halftime, we were losing 10-7. Defensive coordinator Brad Morris said to me, he goes, you ready to do our stuff now? I said, yeah. It was a little bit late. We end up losing, 17-7, but I would never do that. I'll never underestimate our team, and I'll always give them the best opportunity to win. So that's that I learned that 2002 the hard way, and ever since then, I have stayed with that.
Mm-hmm. So, what do your off-season like expectations look like going into the season, and then also what do you guys do in the off-season to get you prepared for the summer and for the upcoming fall season?
Yeah, the off season starts. It'll start sometime in January. A lot of times when our official off season starts, our second semester of school, we have a weight training class that most football players take. So they get into that weightlifting regiment, and then what we'll start doing is 4-man workouts. We have an advantage over at Anchor Bay. They have a sportsplex over there. They have an indoor facility, which we can utilize at times when everybody else wants to use it too. But we get we don't need a whole lot. We get pieces, so we get 4 guys in there working out together. We're working on stance and starts, and so we get to do that. Then what we do starting in June, we will we'll start our speed development camp and our weight training, and we go on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's from 9 to noon on those 3 days. And what that'll do is it'll consist of lifting and speed development outside. Prior to that, we do have our own camp where just our players, other guys are invited, but most of our players, I would say 99.9% of them, go to that camp, and it's with helmets, and we install our offense, our defense, and everything. And we do it for a week. It's from 5 to 7:30 at night. Then we go into our summer routine. We go 3 days a week, have some 7-on-7s mixed in there as well. And we do that all the way up until, I don't know, like the second from last week of July. And then August, the first week of August, I believe we will have, just group conditioning at night, just for an hour. And then we'll come back and then we'll start practice. It'll be a 2-day session that we start at 2:30 and we're done at 8:30 at night. We have a break in between. But for the most part, and our calendar is out. It'll be out before Christmas, so the kids know when everything is. It doesn't change. It doesn't deviate. All the community service events, everything that we're going to do, so they can plan out. They can't say, well, I didn't know, I wasn't sure. They can say it, but it won't be true. And it's what we do for the parents. Parents want to plan their vacations. We have that down week in July. We actually take almost 12, 13 days off in July so that they can enjoy themselves. And then we come back and we don't have any time off after that.
Mm-hmm. So what would your best advice be to players that aren't starting, that want to earn playing time or want to earn a starting spot? Like, as the coach, what's your best advice for them?
Well, the first thing is, just because, with a lot of times with great expectations comes great disappointment. And with these guys, they expect certain things. I started at the freshman, I started on the JV, then they come up to the varsity and they figure it out. This is a senior. We had 33 seniors on our team this year, and they all wanted to start. They didn't, but they all wanted to start because they felt it was their turn. This was the last hurrah. So I just tell them, uh, what do you really want to get out of this? I mean, I don't necessarily care if you start, but who's going to finish? And we keep talking about who's the finishers, who is on the field at the end. So if you can gain that trust of us as coaches and teammates, that you can be on the field at the end of the game, you're probably going to end up being a starter somewhere down the line. But find a spot on special teams. Make that important to you to start out. Practice hard. Don't be that guy. Well, you glide through practice. I want guys that are going to practice hard, because I can't evaluate them if they're not practicing hard. So they got to practice hard. I'm a big time practice coach. We have great practice film. We have a drone that sits up above our field, and we go in after all the film is up, and we watch practice film, and we say, well, no wonder this guy. I mean, and I am I'm the culture guy. I watch sideline film. I want to see what those guys are doing. Are they screwing around on the sideline? Are they cheering their teammates? What are they doing? And if they're just in it to wear the jersey, that's okay. But don't come to me and say, Coach, how can I get more playing time? You can't get it like that. And I have a clip of them on the sideline. They're looking up in the stands, not paying attention. And they'll say, well, how'd that work out? Didn't work out very well for you.
Mm-hmm. So what does the daily, or not the daily, but like your weekly game routine, like before the game, what does that look like to get your players ready for the game?
Yeah, Monday is a day that we'll go with just shells. So we'll be shoulder pads, practice jersey, whatever shorts we tell them to wear that day. Everybody's got to be in the same stuff. Okay, if you're not in the same stuff, if you're on offense, you're in white. Practice jersey. If you're on defense, you're in red, and you come out in the same apparel. So if we have we're going black shorts that day, or we're going gray shorts that day, or red shorts that day. We're all in the same stuff. So Monday is we're doing very light hitting. There's not a lot of hitting, but more of the game plan being put in. We're showing them what kind of defense is being run by the other team. We go through all our special teams, do all that, and then on Tuesday come back out and we're in full pads. So we will a little bit more hitting. We don't usually take anybody to the ground. Maybe early in the season we will tackle live, but for the most part we don't take anybody to the ground. If they go down, that's because they lost their balance. But and we'll do the same practice routine that I said before. It doesn't change. Kids want that structure. They want that discipline. They know. I post a practice plan up in the locker room before practice. They know exactly what we're doing. All the coaches have practice plans by 10 a.m. in the morning, so they can, do their own individual practice plan. So Wednesday we come out, and then we always start off with film. So film first, we'll watch the film. On Monday, we'll watch our game film, as a unit. And then on after practice, we'll watch the opposing team. And then on Tuesday, come in and watch film first. And it's going to be of our practice, of the practice prior. And then we'll watch some film of the opposing team. And then the defense will watch film after practice, and so that so we can split those guys up. And then on Wednesday, very similar. We'll do some goal line stuff, some situational. And then on Thursday, we all come out, and if we're away that day or that week, everybody will be in red game jerseys, and they'll be in gray shorts. So everybody will be looking uniformed, and we'll go through our special teams, and we'll do it systematically. While we're doing special teams, which we don't really have too many offensive linemen that are on special teams except for extra point field goal. Mm-hmm. So we'll be doing blitz pickup with the offensive linemen. And when we get done doing all our special teams, we go through our offense. We run through the offense, and the defense will have their formation rec. It's about maybe an hour and a half long, and then we'll come together as a team, and we'll give stickers for the week before. They get an anchor, depending on how many tackles, interceptions, whatever it may be. And then if they were player of the week on offense, defense, scout team player of the week, offense, defense, coaches award, special teams player of the week. So make a big deal out of it. Kids get excited about it. And then we have team dinner. So we go to team dinner, and that's at 5:00. Go to team dinner. We pray first. Then we go to eat. We eat systematically, depending on what we'll do is the players of the week. Sometimes we'll go first, and then we'll go units after that, be offensive line, maybe secondary, whatever it may be. And then once we disperse from that, kids are invited to go watch JV game. If it's at home, they go out and watch JV game. They're up in the stands. They're not on the field because it's not their game. I don't want to take it away from the JV team. They get up in the stands, get off your feet, watch the game. You're not cheerleaders, you're football players. Watch the game, do the right thing. And then, they disperse from there. Hopefully they get to bed by 10. Hopefully they get to sleep by 10, because a lot of times they go to bed at 10. They don't shut their phones down until probably 11, 12 at night. Yeah. So we're asking them to do that. And then we come back in the next day. One of the things that we do, I don't know if it's different from other schools. I don't know. I haven't checked them out, but we provide peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for all our kids before practice. So they'll go to film, and they'll have peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And what it does, it's got the 7 essential vitamins. It's got the fat, and it's got the protein that's going to help them continue through the day. It's got a little bit of sugar in that jelly that's going to give them that boost. And it's also the kids not just sitting out of practice going, I'm starving. I got to get out of here. I got to get home. They can't think about that. So they have the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And it's, I've been doing this since I was at Dakota, did it at De La Salle, and brought it to Anchor Bay. And it's worked out really well for us.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say the main qualities, like what are the main qualities that a football coach should have?
Well, I think number one, you got to have passion. If you don't have passion, I don't care how good of X's and O guy you are, because the game will eat you up. You got to have passion. Got to love it. And you gotta make sacrifices. There's a lot of times where guys are out on a golf course where I would love to be out there, but I can't do it because we got a commitment here. We got to do this. There's things that if you want to be a good football coach, it's kind of a year-round deal. Don't overdo it, because if you do more isn't always better. But you're always thinking about it. You're always thinking about, how can we get better? How can we do this? How can I convince this kid that he's going to be better next year than he was this year? How can I get this kid out for a team? How can I get this coach to do more and think that he's in charge? So I think you have to, you gotta love it. If you don't love it, it'll just catch up to you, because there's so many things that you can do, and we don't do all the things that I want to do because we just don't have the time. I just got off the phone before I talked to you with Scott Merchant, head coach at Chippewa Valley. I mean, he does all kinds of things, and I'm just talking to him about his Wounded Warrior game, his cancer game that he puts on, and how he does it. It's what he does, and he does a great job. So everybody's got their little niche, and he does a great job. So I'm trying to get at that out of him. So we were a little bit more competitors when I was at Dakota, being in the same school district. But now since I left and went to De La Salle, we got pretty close.
Mm-hmm. So, like, obviously you have so much experience coaching for like such a long time, but like, what do you do to like improve yourself even now just to get better at what you're doing? Because you've been doing it for so long, so you like know the game. But like, what do you do just to keep getting better at it?
Well, I think it's, doing podcasts like this, being able to, think about some of the questions that you asked me. I go back, I've been taking notes myself saying, all right, we got to think about something that we can improve on there. But, going to clinics, I always ask every coach, I said, who do you, who do you go to when you have trouble? Who's the guy that you call? And I know who the guy I call is, but who's the guy that you call? And what are you going to do? Who do you want to research this off season? And we talked about it as a staff. We got a couple guys that we want to go and we want to talk to. And with Zoom, it's excellent, so you don't have to do a lot of traveling, but you can get them on and you can talk to them. And people they're really good. Most coaches, though, they're willing to share. Now, you got to put your own spin on it. Thing is, I'm going to do it exactly like this guy did it. And it didn't work. Well, that's not me. I do it the
Mm-hmm.
way, I'll figure it out with our terminology, how we can incorporate that. And sometimes you just got to say no. Like I can't do that. I got too many things going. I mean, I got a wife, I got, I got grandkids, I got people that I got to be at too. And I just can't do everything. So if you don't want to do it half-heartedly. So you want to give them everything you have. So that's one of the things that I continue to do is you plan out your schedule. And I think it's important that you have a schedule and you show it to all the people that you're coaching with. And, you check with your family too. It's just, what do you think? I'm going to be away on January 27th, 28th, and 29th. I'm going to Florida to visit this guy. Really? Oh, okay. Wow. That sounds good. And it is good. I don't want to go to Minnesota on those days because if we're going to go someplace, let's go someplace warm. So I told the
Mm-hmm.
coaches, let's pick someplace nice. Let's go research somebody that you can get a little bit of warm weather. Maybe we can bring our golf clubs and it can't be all just football. Because if it is, because you're with these guys all the time. And if you don't like them, it catches up to you really fast.
Yeah. So, um, what would you like, or like, who are the biggest mentors that you had growing up, or either even now, mentors that you have that helped you get better?
Well, Bob Schroeder's my number one, and he coaches with me now. He'll be 80 years old in April, so he's still going. He's sharp, he's passionate, he loves kids. Kids love him. So I bounce every idea. Basically, he is going to stop coaching per se on the field. He wants to be the general manager. I say, you name whatever you want to be, whatever it is, and he knows the game extremely well. He is he's somebody I can bounce ideas off, and he'll tell it to me straight. Like, hey, you're out of line. You can't do that. That's you better go tell that person. Better go talk to him because he knows me pretty well. We've known each other for 30 years. And another guy was a good friend of mine, Dave Preston Inzi, is a guy that I think he's one of the best fundamental coaches. He wasn't really a football coach per se. He was more basketball and softball, but he could break down a skill probably as good as anybody. And what he would teach his fundamentals and continue to teach those. And I think I got a little bit of that from him. So those are the two guys that I really, when I look at coaching mentors, those would be the two guys.
What's your best advice for someone that's starting to get into the coaching industry and starting to get their first job, like to like work their way up?
Do anything, man. Don't be pigeonhole yourself. Well, I played quarterback. I got to coach quarterbacks. Go coach offensive line. Go coach the secondary. Do anything and be a sponge. Ask questions and don't think you know it all because you, you don't. And just because you could have played at the University of Michigan. It doesn't mean you coached at the University of Michigan. And it doesn't mean that you can do the coaching part. Just because you played doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. A lot of times the best players, especially Division I players, don't make the best coaches because a lot of those guys have been handed a lot of things. You look at your Division III guys, the guys that fought for everything they possibly could get. They didn't weren't in the limelight, but they played football because it was the game that they loved. Those guys become great coaches as well because they know what it means. And this is the state championship. I coached with a guy that said, hey, I've been there. I've been to a bowl game. I was at the Rose Bowl. This is not that big of a deal. Well, if it's not that big of a deal, then why are you doing this? A game should be a big deal for kids when they come out there for the first time and they walk out, they run out of that tunnel. They got their name on their back, they got their school's name on the front, the band's playing, you got the smoke going, you got your parents up in the stands. This is your first high school game. You're excited, man. You're excited. And that's what I tell the guys is don't take that excitement away from the kids. Get involved in that. Be excited with them. And there's nothing like having a coach mentor for a kid that gets excited for them and they continue and they can count on those guys. So be excited, show passion, show enthusiasm all the time. You can always bring that. If you don't know it, don't try to fake it. Just coach what and just try to learn as you go. Sometimes these guys, they want to come out and well, I heard that, we're going to do this and they're making stuff up. Don't make stuff up. And, sometimes I think young coaches, they get thrown in the fire. I think they need to have more of mentors themselves. So we'll take a young coach and he's never coached before and he may be on the varsity and coaches will get upset and go, why is he on the varsity? Because he's there to learn. He's not really there to coach. He's there to learn. And then once we get him a year or two under his belt, then he can go down and coach the JV and feel more confident. That's the way we built our coaching staff at Dakota. And it really worked out well because all those guys, then they went down to freshman, be the head freshman coach because they were ready and we could trust them. And that's the biggest part of coaching is can you trust the guy that's coaching the kids that is in your program?
Mm-hmm. So do you have a specific book or a couple books that you would recommend to people that either just love football or want to learn more about coaching or just football in general?
I don't, there's books on football, but I'm more into like the leadership books, like David Goggins' book that he wrote, You Can't Hurt Me, and some things like that. I look at these books and I'm just looking at some of my books right now and I'm going, there's some football stuff, but a guy that I've been kind of following is a guy named Kenny Simpson. And Kenny Simpson is a coach down in Arkansas. He's a high school coach. And we've been corresponding back and forth. And he runs a lot of the shotgun tee, but his philosophies are really kind of neat the way he deals with kids, the way he deals with situations. And he's more of I think he's in a private Christian school. So it's a little bit different, but it's very similar. Those kind of books, not really into reading a book and saying, okay, well, we're going to put this play in. This play, how do you teach a double team? Where are your first steps going to be? Who's punching where? Where's the drive block coming? Are you bringing your knees up through a guy or are you chopping down low? Where's his head? We keep arguing about, not arguing, discussing that all the time. And well, I like to do this. Okay. And I like to do this. I like to throw the flipper. I like to throw the hand. Okay. What are we going to do? That's guys will say, well, you can do this. I understand you can do a lot of things, but we have to know when we walk out on the field, what we're going to do. At Anchor Bay, we're throwing the flipper. And that's the way we're going to double team. Cass Tech, they may be throwing hands. I don't know. But I ask them everywhere I go. I ask them every college coach that walks into our office. I ask them, hey, how do you teach the double team? And they'll tell me, and I pick something up from every one of them. And a lot of times it's just reassuring what they're saying. And they say exactly what we were saying. Okay, that's good. Good to know. We're doing the same thing. It's a long process. No, we got our kids for 5 years. You only have them for 5 weeks. Get them ready. I know. So be careful. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. So both of your 4 state championships, they're both back to back, correct?
Yeah.
So coming off the first state championships, so the first and your third one, how did you manage the expectations and end up repeating? How was the way you found to manage those expectations and not let that overwhelm your team?
Well, at Dakota, I can't really remember, to tell you the truth. It was we won it, but at De La Salle, I can distinctly remember after the first win, we got T-shirts, and we had big T-shirts, and it said De La Salle football on the back. It said, "Don't eat the cheese." And what we meant by "don't eat the cheese" is everybody's going to tell you how great you are. You're not great until we tell you you're great. We walked off that field at Ford Field, and I told those guys, now we're great. And we worked. And the thing about it is, everybody will say, well, the reason you won at Dakota was because they're a large school. The reason you won at De La Salle is they're a private school. The reason we won at Dakota at De La Salle was that we got up at 6 a.m. and we worked out and we lifted. The reason we won at those schools is because we worked hard in the off season. The reason we won at those schools is because we nurtured our players to get to the point where they could be good. The reason we won at those schools is because we didn't make the mistakes that other schools made. The reason we won was because we were mentally tough. The reason we won was because of the people around us. They didn't let anybody surrender. So when everybody asks that question, is why did you win? Well, those are some of the reasons why we won. And yeah, you got to have great players. You got to have great talent. And there's no doubt about it. But you got to do something with it, because with good talent, a lot of times comes responsibility. And the responsibility for us is, okay, that guy's really good. So is that guy. Who gets to play? Find him another spot. We got to get him on the field. And that's what we did. We could convince a guy, yeah, I know you're a running back. You've been a running back all your life. You're going to play linebacker. I'm not a linebacker. Well, do you want to be on the field? I do. You're not going to be on the field before him. In our professional judgment, he's better than you. You'll get some touches, but so that's that. That's that. I think doing it repetitively is so much more difficult, because when I first started at Dakota, yeah, we had no expectations. If we won some games, everybody was like, holy cow, you surprised them. Then we were on the other side of the ledger where we were supposed to win those games, and we we're playing teams that we were supposed to win. So we were winning games in the first 5 years when I was there that we weren't supposed to win. Then the next 8 or 9 years, we're playing teams that we're supposed to beat. The pressure is a little bit different when you're supposed to win those games. The other first 5 years, it was fun building that. Gosh, I can't. That's what it is at Anchor Bay. You go and sneak up on some of those teams, and they go well, it's not the same Anchor Bay. No, it's not. We're a little different, little different group here.
Mm-hmm. So this is the final question I have for you tonight, but so what motivates you to keep coaching? Because obviously you've been doing this a long time. So what motivates you to keep going?
I think the competitiveness motivates me, just being competitive, getting the kids to compete, not only compete I want, I get up every morning at 4:59 because I want to beat the guy that gets up at 5 o'clock. I want to beat that guy. And I tell our guys, you got to have something that you can beat these guys at. What can you do? And whatever you can do. And I try to get their juices flowing every day. I told some kid today, I said, you wearing those sandals? I said, I said, when you go on a recruiting trip and you wear those sandals, you know what happens? No, you don't get recruited. Okay. So that's my job, is to tell him how you're supposed to act on a recruiting trip, because he's going to get recruited. He's a good sized kid, but he doesn't know. And that motivates me. What motivates me is being able to get through to that kid that says, hey, I didn't know I could do what you thought I could do. If it wasn't for you coaches, I would have never gotten to where I am. And all it is just letting him believe. And that's been our slogan since I've been at Dakota, is believe. And, believe that you can do it. Believe that there is somebody bigger and stronger than you. And when I was at De La Salle, our slogan was, I am third. And I am third means that God is first, everyone else is second, and I am third. And if we can take that attitude and continue to display it and let the people in front of us know that, hey, there's a lot of important things going on, a lot of things going on in this world. Football's just a game kids play, and we're very fortunate to play it. So that's kind of what motivates me.
All right. Thank you. This has been
You're
great. I
welcome.
really appreciate this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it too.
I would like to thank Coach Giannone for coming on to today's show. This was a great interview and I learned so much from it. Make sure to leave a like and comment and catch up on any episodes that you've missed. As always, my name is Calvin Custance and this is The Blueprint.